Loud. Okay. Good morning, everyone. We've officially started our first advisory committee meeting for Title V. Woo, we did it. So for today, I wanted to do introductions to start, just because Steve Molina from the Santa Maria Joint Unified School District was going to be with us. I don't see his name, so I think we all know each other by now. So I'll skip introductions for now. But if Steve joins in, I will just take a moment to kind of go around the virtual room and introduce ourselves. And then I also attached an agenda to the calendar invite, but let me post that link as well on here. Today's meeting is really not meant to be overwhelming at all. The way it worked out, we were supposed to have 2 meetings this semester, but November 12th or 11th ended up becoming a holiday. And so we are only meeting once this semester. So in order to kind of hit the running for semester, I want to start off straight, like since we have everybody here almost. I wanted to see if we can just talk about scheduling for next semester, for our meetings for next semester. So I'm not sure how we want to do that. I guess we can start with this Friday, 9 to 10 a.m. Is there any time conflicts already with this next? Well, first of all, let me start. Does everyone know their schedule for next semester? You can just nod. Okay, cool. Thank you. So does Friday, 9 to 10 a.m. work for everyone? And you gave me a thumbs up. If you actually can give me a thumbs up, that thumbs up. Okay. Anyone know? Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. So we have other folks that are hopefully going to be on this meeting as well that I don't see here. So let me go ahead and make a notation of this. So I want to notate who said that they're available. Kind of do process elimination. So I'm using this new template for meetings, and it's not as like, I can't do bullet points with it. It gets weird. Okay. Oh, well, all right. So in that case, I'll say BB, LB, YT, BB, BR. What else we got? LW, JRR, Cynthia. Well, so just Cynthia Diaz, so I know who that is. Hi, Cynthia. Thanks for making it here. Thanks for
Hi,
agreeing
and
to be on.
actually, did you say it would be on Fridays from 9 to 10?
Yes. Does that work for you?
Usually no. That's the day of our counseling meetings. We meet until 9:30.
You meet until 9:30?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how about 10 to 11 Friday?
That would work.
Does that work for everybody else?
It would work for Cynthia.
We don't have to change it on my account. I can come in half an hour early.
I'll work with Cynthia. I'll work with Cynthia and make it work.
To make 9 to 10 work, or 10 to 11?
10 to 11.
10 to 11. So let's kind of, it's kind of like, it's like an auction. All right, 10 to 11, 10 to 11. Does that work for people on the call? Okay. If it's no, let me know, because I'm just scanning the virtual room and looking. Okay, so in that case, so we got who else? LW, EH, like everything. BREB, baby, JR, LB, CDS. Okay, so I'll start with Fridays 9 to 10, and I hope by the grace of the Lord that works for the people that are not on this call. If not, you'll get an email from me, and we will work that out either via Doodle or something. And like if that does happen, Fridays as a day, is that generally better than any other day of the week? In the instance that kinda for Liz, okay, but then everybody else, Fridays, I know Fridays have now become meetings day as opposed to whatever they were supposed to be before. Okay. Oh, there's Sylvia. Okay, I'll give Sylvia a moment to log on, and I'll make sure. And while we're waiting for Sylvia to get connected, I wanted to mention to Julia and the group in general, I would like to get a student. Hi, Sylvia. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Thanks for making our first advisory meeting. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So I was just mentioning, actually, before I ask my question, we're figuring out the next semester's meeting schedule for these meetings, since we only have one this semester. Would Fridays 9 to 10 and next semester work for you? Do you know?
Fridays 9 to 10. Yeah, that would work for me. Yes.
Awesome. So there's a few people on the call that, a few people that are missing that had agreed to be part of this advisory committee. And I really wanted to get a little bit more people outside the campus on the committee, but I get it, you know, it's tough. And it is the first year. So maybe next year, maybe the year after that, we get a little bit more buy-in. And there's a little bit maybe more exposure. Maybe I've met some more people, hopefully. So to confirm with Steve Molina from Santa Maria Joint Union School District, if that still works for him. And I think there were a couple other people like Christine and Bryce. But so far, tentatively, we'll stick with Fridays 9 to 10. If that doesn't work suddenly for someone, you'll hear from me. And so, yeah. And feel free to ask me any questions or chat with me in the chat box. I do want to mention that these are recorded and the meetings are meeting minutes are posted on the website. So nice and official. So I wanted to mention that I wanted a student voice on this committee. Leah, you sent me over a student name and I emailed him twice, but I never heard back from him. Do you know who I'm talking about by any chance?
Yeah, I thought that he had accepted because I asked him. So I don't know if you want me to follow up with him, I can, or I can find you somebody else, or if anybody else here has a student who wants to serve.
Okay.
Either way, I can work with you if that helps.
That would be excellent. If yeah, I responded to you. I don't know what maybe the lapse of communication was there, but if you don't mind following up with him and just if like CC me on that email, and I can take over the rest, I can onboard him and let him know the grant goals. Is he familiar with Title V at all by any? It's okay if not.
He's one of the tutors, embedded tutors.
Okay.
So he's familiar.
And you know, I'm terrible with names. What was his name again?
Tanner Nelson.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm glad that he was interested. I hope maybe next semester he will be able to join us. And you know, one student, I'm happy to have other students as well. So those that have, you know, maybe a student that they can think of that might be interested in being part of this. I think it's a great resume experience, if anything. I invited my 2 student ambassadors, but I know with students right now, this is a tough week to kind of do anything else but study and do homework and tests and stuff. But hopefully we can get at least 1 to 2 students. I'm happy to have more. I think their voices are very important. So I'm going to note for myself. So JRR will follow up Tanner Nelson, student. My hope is to get the meetings figured out by the end of the month. So I'm not sure if people are going to be logging out after next week, but please, I mean, I think we all kind of probably glance at our emails at least once throughout our vacation time, maybe just as a habit now. So if there's any big stuff, I'll send an email to let you know if like I had to reschedule them from Fridays. That's the main reason why I'd email about this specifically. So with that, as far as our action items, that is the big one. I thought scheduling was going to take a lot longer, so that's a relief. And then let's talk about the purpose of the advisory committee. Has anyone served on an advisory committee for a grant yet by any chance? Yeah. I'm curious, Elaine, do you recall kind of what was the general flow of the meetings and what came out of those?
I was part of a grant advisory committee for the community ed, adult ed block grant. And they were kind of more informational, right? To keep everybody in the loop about what was going on. And then we did have to vote on some items. It's been a couple of years. And so that was an opportunity for things that we needed to vote on. It was a partnership with community members or, other organizations in the communities. It wasn't just Hancock.
Okay. Okay. That's kind of similar. So I of course, I'm somehow already a year into this position almost, but still feel, this is my first advisory committee with the grant. So in my head, the way I foresee these advisory meetings is a little bit different from our leads meetings where it's specific, money and like, who's getting compensated for what does the stipend language say, very specific items. I was thinking of like bigger picture conversations, and really kind of the mantra, so to speak, being institutionalization. And if what we're doing for the specific goals is working, and if it's not, what can we do differently? I don't want to, and that's where I'm kind of thinking that, to quote Dr. Walters, to take it's a 10,000 foot view at items, or I actually butchered that quote, but I like that kind of bird's eye things, to kind of look and see how things are going. So we're all familiar with the grant goals and objectives. Actually, Cynthia, you're a little new to the group. Are you familiar with the current Title V grant goals and objectives?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Okay. And there's 4 big ones, right? Embedded counseling, embedded tutoring, the financial wellness work initiative, and the faculty to faculty professional development network based in multicultural competence and andragogy. And the purpose of these meetings, I guess, today, I really wasn't planning on setting anything out besides scheduling things and figuring out what the purpose of these meetings are, discuss them, the purpose, what I think. So we can kind of just start from there, I think. Let me just see my meeting minutes really quick. So to kind of bounce around really quick before, I think we can spend the rest of the meeting just talking about our goals and how those are going, and maybe big picture plans if we want to do anything different for next semester, and if something's glaringly not working, if there are ideas to do it differently. Ben, I know you've sent an email recently that outlined a plan, and we can talk about that as well. Anybody else that wants to add anything to that? I do want to mention that we have our annual performance report that's going to be opening mid-December, and it'll be closing February. So we have 60 days to do it, and we'll have our data in by then, and Erica will probably meet and discuss some of those items in detail, because the embedded counseling and embedded tutoring specifically, I want to discuss a little bit deeper than what I did for the interim report. And then just kind of keep a heads up that January, probably most of January, I might be tapping on you for some sort of update. Last time I sent a template, and I don't know if I want to do that again. It might suffice to just talk with you all during a meeting and get what I need from you there. So I'm figuring out based off what the APR asks of us. And is anyone familiar with APR by any chance? Is there a, okay. Because I also don't really know what to expect. I know that word counts are kind of my limiter. So that's the only big issue I had with the report, is how do we say all the good stuff and explain and contextualize with 1,500 word count, which includes space periods. So that actually was the biggest barrier. But if that's our barrier, I'd say that we're in good hands, in good shape rather. And then, yeah, let's talk about, maybe we can just kind of break down the 4 big goals I just talked about. And I'm sorry, I keep hearing my email go off. I want to make sure no one's okay. I just wanted to make sure that people aren't like, I can't get on the meeting. So let's kind of just talk about it one by one. We have 40 minutes. We got plenty of time. If anyone wants to talk about anything else, I kind of left the format a little open because I just wanted to feel out how this first one would go. So embedded, the big one, embedded counseling. At a glance, for spring 2022, oh, Ben just disappeared. Ben, are you still with us, or?
Yeah, sorry, my kid's homesick, so he and I are hanging out.
Oh, no. Well, if you would you prefer that we talk about tutoring first?
No, go for it. I'm here.
Okay. Oh, I just kind of wondering for spring 2022, do we want to do anything different? And if we do we have time to change anything with respect to what we did this semester?
Erica, when will we be able to look at results from this semester? Not until like early January, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I might be able to get something, but probably not until January.
Okay, cool. Well, I did just send you guys an email with the updated. We have the 9 of the 12 classes filled, and we are going out for a part-timer or a couple part-timers to hopefully fill the other 3. Part-timers will be interviewed 2 weeks before school starts, I believe. So, you know, it's kind of up in the air. If you guys want, I know Liz, you expressed some desire to have the classes that you for math specifically filled so you can get the tutors hired earlier. So if there's a certain class in math that you want us to put the part-timer in, I mean, the assumption is the part-timers are going to be available, you know, a lot more than anyone else. So if there's certain ones that you want to start getting a tutor for, and we can just tell them you're doing this math class, that might make it easier on you and not have to wait till the last minute. Same thing for Julia with English. As far as what we want to do differently, I would love to implement the growth mindset curriculum into all the classes. You know, it just needs to be a conversation that's had probably in that initial meeting, which Elaine did remind me about yesterday. Or was that yesterday, Elaine? I don't know. I've been home with the sick kid all week. Every day's blending into each other. So if we could make that kind of at the forefront of the discussion for the meeting that we have before the semester starts, and we can provide them with the toolkit. I can meet with the counselors too, if they're willing to let the counselors do it for 5 to 10 minutes at the start of the classes in those certain weeks. That would be awesome too. I really think that that's going to pay some huge dividends. That's just my opinion though.
Are we gonna train the tutors on that so the tutors know what they're talking about? Because I know if it were me, my tutors might not know that if they hadn't seen it. Does that make sense, Ben?
Yeah, that's a great idea. We can definitely do that.
We do include growth mindset in our tutor training, but Ben, I think we could collaborate, and I'd love to, you know, make sure we're sharing the same information.
Yeah, that's what I just want to make sure that they're not getting disparate information. That's my biggest concern. And I know that in the math classes, I'm looking at Luke, I just got feedback because I do habits of mind and growth mindset. And that's one of the areas where they get a little like, it's not math, it's not math. And I'm like, but you don't want to get a major in math. So why are you bitching? Right? Like you're telling me you like to write, so just write. But you know what I'm saying, Ben? So there needs to also, I would ask that when you do that, how like have a STEM or math spin will make it better for them. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay. I know that this is like last minute. If we met over the break at some point, like, could we talk about how we could do that Stimmer math spin with you and Luke, if you guys are willing to? Just because, you know, that's your forte more than mine. So like, what language could we use to make it more applicable to those disciplines?
Does that make sense, Luke? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, you know, I'm not familiar actually with the growth mindset, you know, curriculum or program or whatever it is. But I'm definitely interested in, you know, learning about it. And I think if it is working for math, there's some similarities with, you know, life and physical sciences. So definitely would like to implement that also then.
I mean, I'm happy to work with you, Ben, but like what I think of is like, we do growth mindset. And I talk about growth mindset in some classes, not all. And I do habits of mind in every one of my classes, right? Because that's an easy buy-in, 16 habits, 16 weeks, the math works. So what I do is not all, but many of my videos that I show have a math or science spin on them. So when we do the accuracy one, we watch a video about going into space. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's just a little more nerdy and a little less woo-woo.
Trying to find a way to tie it into the subject material.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because what happens is that they start to get frustrated when they feel like there's lots of extra assignments that are not related to math, particularly or science. And again, I'm looking at Luke because we're in curriculum where you know, there's a homework assignment every day, guaranteed, right? I mean, that's a minimum. And then there's quizzes and there's tests and there's just so many assignments for them. You know what I mean? They get bogged down in so much. That's just my thoughts. So that's my one concern. But again, I'm a big fan of growth mindset. I teach it. So, and I'm happy to share what I have, Luke.
Okay, that'd be cool.
So I even have some nerdy science ones. You can tell me if they're wrong.
No, that sounds great. I mean, I'm happy to go over that training with them during the tutoring and the training that we're going to do on the 18th. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
Let's give it a shot. And then, I mean, Erica, you can probably talk about it a little more than I can, but the goal setting was a huge part of the success that we saw in the initial pilot. So throwing that stuff in there a little bit would be great.
Yeah, I think that was our biggest one, is the goal setting. So I definitely would like to see that. And in terms of anything else for spring, just throwing this out there that if there's any possibility of looking at equity and grading at all in all of these sections, English, math, biology, of doing professional development in that or discussions in that, as being, you know, one of the key factors for student success. So just kind of thinking about other things that we can do beyond what we're already doing, but, you know, how can we initiate maybe some other measures that might move the needle for student success besides embedding tutoring, counseling, you know, what are the 3 pieces? That would just be something we can consider.
I'm going to bring this up here, Erica, because I don't know if maybe this isn't the right venue for it, but I hear what you're saying. And it really goes, a lot depends by departments, right? And what I see is like my program and my department, we're huge. There are 15 full-time faculty and 30 part-timers. And we would like to see program review get changed, right? And I know Erica's yeah. So I'm just going to say it here where I have a space to say, we need to maybe think about how we can support those people in making those changes, because some of what you're asking for, like the equity in grading, requires programs to get together to have painful conversations, which currently we don't have to do for anything on campus. I got recorded too, right?
We are. I could have paused it, but
no, I want to be recorded. I want to make a statement that part of what Erica's asking for is a very valid ask. The problem is we have no mechanism whereby programs are motivated to do that. Right. And you're talking about math and English, 2 of the hugest programs on campus and programs everybody has to go through. And yet, because we're so large, you know, the way things are done, we don't engage in the kinds of discussions that Erica wants to promote.
Right. Well, and I think, you know, Maria and I had this conversation, you know, just when I was talking about the data with her and some of the challenges. And it's like, well, you know, there's a big elephant in the window of, you know, why can't we address what's happening in the classroom to support student success? You know, and that's one of those things. And if we want to, you know, show strategies that improve student success for these, you know, gateway courses, and we want to move the needle, you know, we have an active audience here of obviously faculty who are dedicated, they're wanting the tutors, they're having the counselors. So, you know, why not seize this as an opportunity to, you know, maybe have some faculty embrace that piece. And then the hope would be that if they see it as beneficial, that they could then train or suggest to their colleagues that this is an effective strategy. And then, you know, it spreads in the department. So, you know, it's hard for it to come from my office, you know, like we talked about these strategies, but if we could get faculty in this group to see the benefit of it, and how they're doing it and how they're using it, and then, you know, could say, hey, this is really helpful for us. We really saw some benefits. and then, you know, get other people excited in their department to do it, maybe that would be a way of kind of spreading this initiative, just as an idea. But I agree with what Liz is saying. Thank you, Liz. I appreciate it.
Can we just define what we mean by equity grading? If somebody else listens to this video, they probably wouldn't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it would be things like looking, so for example, we just did a training for Excelencia, where we did a actual practice looking at a grade book. And it's meant for faculty to do. Like, we don't have assignment grades, so obviously we can't do anything in IE. But what a faculty member would do is like look at the timing of their first quiz, right? And say, okay, when do you give your first measurement of course success? And look at then by ethnicity, you know, how many of those students passed the quiz by, you know, different populations, males, females, Hispanics, and just do an assessment of that initial quiz. And then how many of those students dropped after that point and moved on to the next assessment. And then it really looks at within the course, you know, timing of the first assignment in correlation with like drop deadlines. I've had, for example, I've had a conversation with a faculty member in math whose first assignment is after census. So students don't even have an idea of how they're doing in the class until, you know, it's too late to drop before census. So they have to withdraw after that first big, you know, assignment that they fail. And then, you know, and then the discussion would be, well, what can you do? Is there a way to like change your grading strategies, move up timelines? If you notice that, you know, half of the students that failed the first quiz were Hispanic, you know, maybe there is, you know, some strategies you need to use there to support those students. So that's just one example of how you look at equity and grading in a particular classroom. It's not just the assignment, the grade at the end of the semester, you know, who's withdrawing or getting A's, B's, and C's, but it's, you know, really looking at, you know, what is happening to your student population in the classroom from day one, you know, all the way to the end of the semester. So that's just an example, Julie, of what I mean by equity, and looking at it through an equity lens, like who are the students you are losing through this process?
I don't know if this is connected, but maybe I'll just ask Ben. So in the first week, we don't have much about expectations, right? Because what I'm finding in my discipline is that students don't have the same expectations as I do when they come into the classroom. And because they don't have those expectations, when they get to the first assignment, they're like, oh, I don't think I'll do this assignment type of thing. So I don't know if that's a piece that's going to be part of our toolbox, Ben, but that I think would really help in my discipline. I don't know about in other disciplines.
I'm thinking on how. I'm thinking on the role counseling can play in assisting with that. You know what I'm saying, Cynthia? I know, I'm throwing it at Cynthia right now. No, you don't. Okay. So that's a concept of personal development classes, right? Where you talk about the expectations of college in particular.
Mhm.
So finding a way to implement that, this would probably be in every discipline, not just English, I'd imagine. I'm sure Liz and Luke, you guys see the same thing when you give your first assignment. Half the students do it, half the students don't. Some of them don't do it very well. So it's just a lot of material to cover in 1 week. Let me talk to some of my colleagues about that and see what we could do to help. But that would require giving more time in the first week. Maybe Do you guys typically do a syllabus type day, or do you jump right into it? Anybody?
Well, I do a syllabus, and we discuss about things, and we also have the discussion about, the differences between the previous place they went to and now, like if they're in high school or they're a returning student and things like that. But it kind of, you have that conversation, and like a lot of conversations, it's lost. You have the conversation, but it doesn't go necessarily get processed. So I'm going to try this semester. I want to just keep on reminding students, hey, this is college. Hey, you need to keep your deadlines. You need to get, most students are even thinking D is a passing grade. So I don't know if this piece lives with us or it lives with when the students are signing up for college. But I'm finding this is a constant battle I'm having, and I wonder if this is part of the reason that we get bad results on the assignments. I don't know.
I would say too, Ben, this is, oh, sorry, Cynthia.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I wouldn't necessarily do this in the first week. I feel like this is something that's almost better mid-semester, because there's so much thrown at them the first week. They're going to lose it. They only get about half. So even if you buckshot twice as much, they're still only going to get that same little bit that they get. And secondly, I feel like they need to sort of, I hate to say fail, but like stumble a little, and then they're ready for the information. And so we almost have to set them up for like a couple weeks of what college is, a few weeks of what college is like before we're like, well, yeah, this is a normal expectation. Right? Because they can still regain and save themselves after 2 or 3 weeks of school, right? Nobody's grades are set that soon.
Yeah, and this is not meant to be, sorry, Luke, go for it.
Oh, I was going to say, similar to what Liz is speaking about, I do go over the syllabus on day one, but I highlight things, and I have to return to those procedures and those rules within the semester when they become pertinent to the student. It's similar to like when you go over the laboratory safety rules. If you go over them all in day one, during week 14 and 15, they don't remember the safety procedures. So you always repeat the safety procedures that are pertinent to that lab as you go. And that just, I get better results with that. I do the same thing with the procedures and, the rules, or, how class is conducted with the syllabus. I piecemeal it out when it's important for their knowledge. So I don't know if it's possible to do that with that type of curriculum that you were looking at implementing, if it can be done at, different junctures throughout the semester.
I think one thing that would be really helpful that we can work on collaboratively, and this might be for the people, this might not be for the people here, but having an assignment in those first couple weeks, and then the grade is on Canvas. I did embedded counseling this semester with one faculty member, and it was the midterms. I didn't know what the students' grades were yet. They had not been input in Canvas yet. So when students don't know where they stand, and kind of like Liz, like you said, they need to get a kick in the pants. I know for me and most males, I'm going to generalize here, we need to fail before we realize, oh, wait, I got to actually do something about it. When the students are actually seeing the grades in their Canvas and saying, oh, wait, I got a 0 or I got a 40%, that's really helpful for them. It gives them that little kick in the pants, and it's helpful for us too, because I can't tell you how frustrating it is having to be like, okay, where do the students stand? I got all these students telling me they're doing good, but I don't know what their grades are, and it's week 8.
Well,
So I know that's an example of bad.
I know, Ben, I do a thing, I've done this for years, where I have my students calculate their grades. And there's something about like when I'm like, okay, write down on this piece of paper what your grades are for assignments for unit 1. And I'm like, oh yeah, you got 25 out of 100%. So just put 25 down. Right. And then I'm like, then it's like they can see, because I use a weighted system. So it's very simple. You multiply, you add, you divide. And I have the process written down for them. And I think that does, you're right. Having it in Canvas is really important. I can't imagine why somebody doesn't, but I think having them do it is also important too, because then they see how it happened, right? There's some ownership there, right? Because I'm like, oh yeah, isn't that interesting? You got a 25 on the assignments, but you got a 50 on the test. So clearly you're testing better than you're doing your homework. Right? The logic is not lost on them. Because I know that we think they look, but they don't look in Canvas. I have many students who tell me they don't know how to use the grade book in Canvas, which I'm surprised by, because I thought it was really straightforward.
Because they're used to Aries from high school, and Canvas is a significant switch, I think. But I know some of them don't check it because they say, well, I don't know, my grades are never in there, so why would I check it?
I think that's a huge part, right? Because not everybody uses Canvas for grades, you know, so even if we could, I mean, look at a small initiative like that. If we got everyone in Title V, like using a Canvas grade book where students can access their grades, where, you know, and there was an early enough assignment where you could gauge, you know, like 3-pack practices, like you know, going over the syllabus, having using Canvas for grades, having an early assignment for students to gauge and fail early, and then provide just-in-time intervention for those students with the tutoring, and say, okay, you didn't do so well, so what are some strategies that you can use? You know, so maybe there's just a handful of tweaky things, but if we did it consistently in the Title V sections, like that's all, and, you know, it proves to be beneficial, you know, that could be really robust and something that we can, you know, roll out in other sections. So minor tweaks along the way, and then, you know, providing that, you know, sense of, and I don't know how tutors and counselors and faculty are all working together, but I would assume in an ideal world that, you know, the faculty would say, okay, we're going to have our first quiz. Like, we don't want anybody to fail this first quiz. So what are the strategies you can implement? You can, you know, obviously study. You can go to this group study session that's set up by the tutor. You could, you know, go to the tutor, you know, whatever those strategies are. And then if they didn't use those resources and they failed, we could say, okay, you know, strategies you used didn't work. So what are we going to do the next time? And then, you know, kind of improve the rest of the semester. But if we don't have those assignments early and access to grades, and, you know, be able to have the tutors be a part of this process in being able to assist students early, you know, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So those are just a few suggestions.
What if it was, so I know some of our, you know, the curriculum dictates that some of the stuff just isn't done in the first couple of weeks, right? So we don't want to tell a faculty member, hey, Lynn, you got to create an assignment that you're going to do at the end of week 1. That's not really fair to him. That's not really going to build his involvement in the program and make him excited about this. What if we did it like a growth mindset assignment that we could do based on the curriculum or the subject matter? So like Liz, we could make an assignment for math where here's how you calculate your own grades. You got to get this done by the second Monday of the semester, something like that. And the counselors, if needed, we could enter the grades since we have access to Canvas, and make it so it doesn't count against them or for them, something like that. Just getting them used to checking it, because I know that's a problem too, where they're not even looking at their Canvas. I don't know, how do you guys feel about something like that? Just getting them used to looking at their grades.
I mean, I think that's a good idea, Ben. And I know that you can create assignments in Canvas that are not part of the final grade, right? Yeah. And students don't know that, right? Or you make it 10 points. I mean, I can't imagine, even in a class where you wrote 3 papers for 100, 10 points is 1 out of 10 out of 300. It's 3% of your overall. I mean, it's nothing.
Hey, that 3% can matter.
Well, no, it's actually less than that, because it's
it's actually
right?
1.3%. Yeah.
You
So
know,
yeah.
Convincing.
Yeah.
You know, another thing is sometimes I have an assignment I know that they don't want to do, and I just add it. I say, if you do this assignment, I'll add those points to your quiz or something like that. And people always do those if it's attached to something else, and it's never more than like 4 or 5 points. So, you know, I don't know.
Shoot, we can make it 1 point.
I also think it's interesting too, Ben, because you could even have something like that, because I find it's sort of silly, right? Again, we all understand that this is, but if I give an assignment on the first week, I do a syllabus quiz, right? It's due a week after I give out the syllabus. We've gone over the answers in class. They have to submit it. They should all get 100. And I go in, I'm like, everybody has an A except for the 4 of you who didn't turn it in, who have an F now, right? But it's that thing of like, I'm like, you have an A in math class, right? And so starting off with that idea of like, you have an A, some of them are like, no. And I'm like, yeah, dude, go check your grade book, man. Everybody's got an A because, right? And for a long time, until I give the first test, like over half of my class has a near perfect score, right? Because they're turning everything in. And I'm like, great, you getting an A. And that it sets that mindset, like I could get an A in math versus, and I don't know how often, Julia, you deal with this, but you know, we deal with I've never been good at math. I suck at math, right? So it's perfectly acceptable for them to fail. That's what they expect to have happen.
Liz, that's a good idea also, because a lot of our students have a negative association with grades. They don't want to check it because it never has been good for them in the past when they've looked at their grades. So giving them an opportunity for success early, you know, then they're going to go back and look at the grade, because it's not always bad news when they're going to check. So I really like that idea, Liz.
Well, and I think it's that thing too of like, because so much of the first part of their grade in my class is based on just submitting assignments. Like, did you watch the videos? Great. You got your 5 out of 5. Good job. Then what happens is it reinforces that positive, like, oh, I'm getting an A, I'm getting an A. And shocker, what happens? They do their homework. And then, oh my gosh, they actually learn some math.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like that's the kicker, is that then they are like, I know how to use a percentage now. Good job. Please tip 20%. Yeah. So that's why I like that.
I think that's something we can definitely talk about in our initial meeting too.
Yeah, I'm just thinking for spring, because faculty will be, you know, working on their courses soon, that if there are, maybe we could, you know, low hanging fruit, pick a couple things here, maybe 2 things that we introduce at the training, Ben, and say, you know, this is the recommendation that we're asking you to implement, like the growth mindset assignment and then the look on Canvas, maybe those 2 things, and then start there, because, you know, they'll be working on their syllabus soon.
What are you talking about, Eric? Elaine, I want to implement it all right now. No, I think you're smart. Let's start small and go from there.
You know, part of this checking Canvas, you know, I think I heard it said that there are professors that are not using Canvas. And so you know, and we have academic freedom, and I'm not going to tell another professor how to teach their course. But within Title V, I think we really need all of the professors using Canvas, because I think it's a best practice. So as far as I'm aware, with the life and physical science professors that are involved, they all use Canvas. And so I think that we can't ask students to check Canvas if their professor isn't using it. So I think that's another point. We may have to make sure everyone's using Canvas.
Well, and Canvas for grading too, because they might use Canvas but might not use the grade like feature. So it's actually both of those things. And the other piece, if I can just mention it here, one of the initiatives that we've seen very strongly with the drop survey is faculty giving their syllabus to students prior to the start of the class. I know that's something else we can't require, but it is a good practice, and that could be something, you know, where students can pre-prepare for the expectations of the course prior to its starting. So again, that's an easy thing if faculty already have their syllabi done for spring, or can release that to students a week before and set the expectations. I know that's something I've been working with Mary Patrick on, and, you know, just trying to get faculty to prepare students prior to them getting to the class. So I don't know if that's feasible as well, but that's an easier initiative. to be able to implement.
Back to the gradebook thing. Sometimes I know for math, we don't maybe use the gradebook in Canvas because we're using an online homework system. And there's a gradebook in there, and Ben's nodding his head. And not all of them play nicely with Canvas. And so you end up like importing. And I know that it's a pain. And so they end up using the gradebook in the other software. So I think we need to say, I know we're supposed to say Canvas, and I know that we're supposed to use Canvas, but whatever their teacher's using, right? So that's part of what's going on.
A lot of those systems like Alex and such, they auto grade, right?
So yeah, Alex is a good example of like, I have to import all the grades.
Yeah. So you just do
And
it
then
once at the end.
My Math Lab is another one where it auto grades, but it doesn't play nice. And so you have to import all the grades.
Is My Math Lab Cengage?
Nope, that's Pearson.
Oh, I used that one last semester. That was a pain. But yeah, it did all the grading for you, and then the instructor just imported all at the very end. So I see what you're talking about. That makes sense. So if we could just do,
is that right? And again, the students like that because they know if they did the problem right, because it tells them right away, you did it right. They can redo the problems, And so I know what some faculty do, because what do we have? Mostly we have the homeworks, the tests, the quizzes. They just add in their test and homework scores into another part there. And that's where they're storing their grades. So Cengage's project is WebAssign, and it does play nice with Canvas, Ben. It'll do full deep integration where it'll import, just so you know.
I don't know, I mean, because I'm an English person, but I start putting announcements. I open up my Canvas a week before and I put announcements, and I'm sending things like, have you got your textbook yet? And I put information. Have you downloaded, Microsoft? Have you got this? Have you got that? And I don't know, some students then start to even email me before the course, which I know a lot of people wouldn't want. But I think it's good to have that there. Of course, you can see who's actually logging on to Canvas as well. And I've noticed since I've started doing that, I do get more people appearing before the class starts. But I know a lot of faculty wouldn't want to do that. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah. Good stuff, folks. And I did notice the time. We have about 6 minutes left on the meeting. I hate to stop this conversation because this is exactly what I think we need to have the time and space to figure out and talk about. And time is always interesting. Julia, just kind of random question I thought of, for those, I mean, if you were to kind of give a rough percentage, when you open the class up you make it accessible a week prior, what percentage would you say that it's like 30% more students are like 30% more involved? Or I guess like if you were to give it a percentage, how much more responsive and like how many students do you think actually look at it that first week, I guess?
I don't think that, I kind of think it's the students who are interested. I don't think it's the students who are not, the ones who have to take it type of thing, the ones who are more willing to. But I think we just forget sometimes that we need to kind of look after our students who are doing a good job. So I know that we're always focusing on failing students, but I want to just focus a little bit on what students who are successful do in our courses. I think that might be, instead of looking at all the negative things, what are students doing in our classes that is making them successful? I don't know if that's one thing.
I think that's something we need to be sharing with other students, because I think one of the things that happens is they have the Lake Wobegon Days experience, and they think that what they're doing is quote unquote what everybody's doing, right? But not everybody's doing, none of them are doing the same thing. But we know that the good success, I shouldn't say the good, the successful students have similar things that they're doing, turning in all of their assignments, you know, asking questions, sending emails. So I think you're right, Julia. We need to start advertising what some of those habits or behaviors are.
And speaking of that, that's so a good place to share. And it would be great if we could down the line create like a quorum basically of, you know, the Title V instructors, that there's a hub that they can exchange information and what's working in my class, and you know, participate, maybe even a like a feedback session. I think those are a venting session, and kind of how are things going. I know that those are done kind of one-on-one based off the department with the faculty lead, but it'd be cool if, like, you know, the Title V instructors could talk to one another. And on that kind of note, I do want to be mindful of time. So this conversation, so we normally would have our leads meeting next Friday, but I canceled that because it's winter break and probably a lot of people are going to be gone. So please keep a lookout for an email about scheduling the leads meetings, which is a whole ton of fun. I can't wait to do that. And hopefully Fridays maybe work again at the same time, but we'll see. But I did want to mention that the Title V, so we had 2 Title V teams. We had a Title V 2020, and most of the folks on this call probably weren't using that one. That's mostly for me. And then we had a Title V embedded counseling and embedded tutoring. Those have been merged together so that Title V, and if you log on to Teams, I try to make it as like explicit as possible, so you know, like, okay, this has been moved. So I sent out invites for anyone that's not already part of Title V 2020. I changed the name of Title V 2020 to Title V 2020 through 2025 to avoid any confusion. But there's the chat function there. I know it was used a little bit on the embedded teams, like a few people shared a few things, but I encourage maybe the leads, if you want to share on that at all, or ask, crowdsource. I don't know the response, of course. It's always tough, even if you at the whole team or at specific people, you know, like you kind of tag them. I don't know how consistently instructional faculty or counseling faculty are checking the teams, but that Teams is there. I don't use the chat, the posts or the chat function. So feel free to use that to your own, you know, discretion. That might be a good way to kind of get the conversation going. And then, so I just want to cover, I kind of try to bold in the agenda what I thought were like the standout items that we talked about. So, and if I also want to clarify, earlier in the meeting, we mentioned of incorporating growth mindset and goal setting. And is that something that, if you can just let me know, is that something that the counselors are going to be trained on and promoting, as well as the tutors? But not the instructional faculty, right?
It'll be up to each group. I know in English, you guys do a lot of that in your curriculum. So, I mean, Liz, you do it in your math classes. So
I would say for most of I am the odd person in my math department. Okay. The only other person I know who does a lot of that is Anna.
So that's the biggest sell then, or the biggest ask of the instructional faculty within the program is, are they going to give up the time for the counselors to do this in their classes?
I think they'll give up. I think they'll give up a few minutes. You know what I mean? But again, we're content heavy, right? We've got to get through the content, and stats maybe not so bad, but the pre-calculus teacher, you're gonna have a little more, I don't know if pushback's the right word, but you know, hesitancy. There's a lot to cover.
So did we already schedule the training for embedded counseling and embedded tutoring for next semester? Yes, we did. Okay. Thank you, Erica. Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to send a reminder for that. Ben, do you mind just sending me an email for that date? And I can send, so all the instructional faculty and all the counselors that are touched by Title V have to take this training, right? So maybe within that, we can kind of, a captive audience, mention the growth mindset and that be part of the training. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that's
okay.
what I wanted to do in the training, big time.
Excellent.
I think you're going to need, so it would be helpful if everybody adds their faculty to that shared doc, you know, on the team site that you were mentioning, Maria, so that you can make sure that we capture everybody and send it to everybody, because it's not complete right now.
Okay, so I'll share the link for that. So Ben, I'll just wait for you to send me the date, and then I will. So I'll have to maybe follow up to know who to email, but I can take care of emailing reminders like this is, you know, this is a paid stipend. These are the stipend requirements. I've noticed a lot of times we do the activity and then afterwards we do the stipend and included the requirements, which I'm sure that can cause confusion. So I like to outline those at the bat, like, you know, let's be all on the same page. So share that link for that document for people to include their name, and maybe we can just kind of just for next semester try to be more of a, you know, not just the leads but also the counselors and the instructional faculty all like, I'm touched by Title V, I'm part of Title V, I know who the other people are, like, you know, so I can reach out and, you know, connect. And then okay, and then we're over time, so I don't want to take up your Friday more than I already have. Thank you so much for being part of this. I'm so glad you all were here and we had this good conversation. Reach out to me if you want to talk one-on-one, and if you want to stay after. I don't have a meeting directly after, but otherwise this first meeting is officially over, and I'll see you all next year.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I'm still around next week, so I'll be emailing you.
Bye. Happy holidays.